Presented by Exquisite Timepieces. More about them in the description down below and later in the video. Seiko, and by extension Grand Seiko, have been around for a long time, and they've been a popular brand for decades. But since the rebranding in 2017, Grand Seiko has been killing it. It's probably one of the most popular luxury watch brands, and a great many people think that their watches are even better than Rolex. And while I do love Rolex, I have to say in a lot of ways I might agree with those people. Maybe Grand Seiko is better. So let's look at 5 things that I think might actually make getting a Grand Seiko a better buy than Rolex. The first thing that comes to mind when thinking about what makes Grand Seiko stand out from a brand like Rolex is its finishing. From the high-polished surfaces on the watch cases to the meticulous detail of the hands and the markers on the dials, Grand Seiko watches are finished to a higher standard than almost any other watch under $10,000. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever seen any watch under that price finish better than a Grand Seiko. And love them or hate them, there's no denying that when it comes to finishing, Grand Seiko is a step ahead of the pack, and that includes Rolex. Take this SBGA 413, for example. Even under close inspection, the handset, it's just flawless. That also goes for the dial markers as well. And considering the price of this watch, the detail and the finishing of these elements is just better than something like a Datejust or an Oyster Perpetual from Rolex. As nice as the fit and finishing on the bracelet, case, and the dial of a Grand Seiko are, more often than not, the main event of these watches is the dial itself. The watches Grand Seiko produces that get people really excited are watches with colored and textured dials. And while Rolex does offer a handful of interesting dials, they usually don't compare to what Grand Seiko is doing. Add to that, not only does Grand Seiko do beautiful dials, they do a lot of them. The sheer variety of dial options that are found in the Grand Seiko collection is staggering. If you're the type of person who likes rich, detailed, and interesting dials, digging into the Grand Seiko catalog is a lot like being a kid in a candy store. There's almost no chance that you're going to walk away having not found something that you like. Before we jump into the next one, please give me 30 seconds of your time to share my channel sponsor and Grand Seiko authorized dealer, Exquisite Timepieces. This video is presented in partnership with Exquisite Timepieces, located in Naples, Florida. Exquisite is an authorized dealer of dozens of watch brands, including Seiko and Grand Seiko, Omega, Oris, Blancpain, Breguet, and many more. Exquisite also has an amazing selection of pre-owned watches with new inventory coming in daily. So if you're looking for your next watch, check their website, exquisitetimepieces.com, or call their store at 239-227-2932, and let them know that you heard about them from Guy in the Just Bluefish channel. I can't recommend them enough. Next up, Grand Seiko movements, and they're awesome. From the incredible spring drive to their high-beat automatics and even high-accuracy quartz movements, they just innovate more than Rolex. I recently did a video on the Omiwatari SBGY007. It's a watch with a beautiful dial, and awesome finishing, and impeccable attention to detail, just like you'd expect from Grand Seiko. And it comes with a manual wind spring drive movement, featuring a 3-day power reserve, plus or minus 15 seconds per month of accuracy, and a power reserve indicator on the back of the watch, visible through an exhibition case back. Now, Rolex movements are good. They're reliable and pretty accurate, but they just don't innovate like Grand Seiko. And that doesn't even take into account the movement decoration and finishing, or their attention to detail, which of course, Grand Seiko does better as well. Grand Seiko gives you a lot of value for your money. They have a lot to offer in the $4,000 to $10,000 price range. A lot more than Rolex has, and you can pick something up like this SBGA 203 for under $5,000. Sure, it's a plain black dial, but you get all of the outstanding Grand Seiko quality, fit and finishing, and the outstanding spring drive movement for a lot less than a stainless steel Rolex Datejust. And just how much less? Well, this is $2,750 less than a Rolex Datejust 41, and I'd argue that it's a better watch. And look, this isn't me saying that the Rolex Datejust is a bad watch. Quite the contrary. I love the Datejust. But if you're buying a watch and you want to get the best watch for the best price, this Grand Seiko is probably a better choice, discounting resale value from the equation anyway. Accessibility is another big reason why people like Grand Seiko better than Rolex, and I wholeheartedly agree on this one. The fact of the matter is that most people can't walk into a Rolex dealer and buy a new watch at all. Supply has been extremely limited for years, and the lack of availability means that you could be waiting for months or even years to get a call to come pick up a watch that you want. I myself put in a request for the Rolex GMT Master 2 Pepsi in stainless steel when it came out, and I still haven't gotten the call. And that was 3.5 years ago. And it's not like I haven't spent money with the Rolex dealer that I put in the request with. I've purchased 3 watches from them, and I still haven't gotten the call. So while Grand Seiko might have a few hard-to-get limited edition watches that come out each year, the fact of the matter is that usually you can walk into a dealer or a boutique, you can try a watch on, and you can buy it that day. Or, in the off chance that they don't have it in stock, you can get it delivered in a relatively short time. The same just can't very often be said about Rolex. And look, this isn't a let's bash Rolex video. It's far from it. I'm a huge fan of the brand, and I consider several of their watches all-time greats. I would never try to talk someone out of buying a Rolex. But it's hard to deny that when it comes to quality, fit and finish, innovation, variety, accessibility, and value, that Grand Seiko is just a better option. So I guess the bottom line is, before you jump on the Rolex hype train, I'd recommend checking out Grand Seiko first. You might just find a better option if you do.